Anabolic steroids have been used by bodybuilders for years. They build muscle, improve strength and performance. But steroids are now being used by young men who want to look good quick. It's a trend that's on the increase.
You see them in the gym a few times a week and then out on a night out, do you? Tight t-shirts on, marching around like they own the place because they've got a little bit of size behind them.
South Wales is now known as the steroid capital of the UK, and it's big business.
I used to sell a lot of it. I used to sell between £500 to £2,000 a week, so there's a big demand out there.
Tonight we investigate what's on offer to those buying steroids over the internet. We find underground labs and counterfeit drugs. Do users really know what they're taking? David Thomas owns a gym in Treforest. He's a former bodybuilder. During his 20s, he used steroids as part of his training programme, and he hasn't ruled out using them again.
I'm no stranger to sort of use of them as I was competitive. I completed most of my life on and off. It's been probably 4 years plus since I've trained properly in the gym. As a bodybuilder, it's a different ball game. But I know the importance of doing cardiovascular training as well as doing training with weights. My body will adapt then quite quickly then to use the steroids. My body will grow a little bit better, a little bit quicker.
Using steroids is perfectly legal, but there's a huge stigma attached to taking the drugs. Many, including this man who we'll call Dean, would only speak to us if we disguised their identity.
Due to some of the negative stereotypes associated with steroid use, if I had chosen to go full face, it could have been potentially damaging to my future career.
Anabolic steroids are synthetic versions of the natural hormone testosterone. Injected or taken orally, they build muscle and strength, accelerating a fitness regime.
So I've been using steroids for between 3 and 4 years, on and off. I started when I was 29 and I'm 33 now. Certainly there was a vanity component involved. I wanted a little bit more muscle. I thought that would impress the ladies and make the guys a little bit more envious. But that's, you know, vanity of youth, I suppose. There was also, though, a strong performance-related component. I like to train very hard, very intensely, and steroids facilitate enhanced recovery. So I could train harder, more times per week. Perfect.
Like an increasing number of men in South Wales, Chris Phillips is a steroid user. Unlike others, he agreed to speak to us openly.
I started training, like I said, around about when I was 20. The more I trained, the more I enjoyed it, you know. And I chose to go down that route. It's not something I do all the time. It's just, you know, you have a good break from it, but it helps you go up to the next level. They help you obviously with strength. Obviously it gets your strength up, and you should build muscle. And as long as you eat right, train, sleep, rest, you know, it's not just the steroids that make you grow overnight. It's everything, you know, you eat, sleep, and train. The steroids, you know, they play a minor role, but it does help you achieve what you want to achieve.
Taking steroids can have a dramatic effect on a man's physique. There's a huge temptation to use the drugs as a shortcut to the perfect body. In a society obsessed by looks, the pressure's on men like never before.
We like a nice build.
Yeah, we like a nice build. We don't like skinny.
Quite toned, thin but quite toned, not too muscly. Do you go for the muscly look?
Well, it depends. No, I'm not just going to be... Not going to like someone just because they're muscly.
Much of the stigma about steroids comes from the fact they're banned in most sports. But in the real world, it's not that black and white. Now, it's got to be said, the law on steroids is pretty complicated. It's legal to buy them, it's legal to possess them, and it's legal to use them. But it's illegal to sell them or even give them to anybody else. You are allowed to go abroad and bring them back into the country, providing they are for personal use. But if you can't go abroad, it's actually really easy to buy steroids on the internet. Doctors do prescribe steroids for medical reasons, but they're not available to buy over the counter.
They're easily available over the internet, you know, but people choose to get it from certain places, internet, you know, abroad.
Fortunately, a friend of mine suggested a website. I must have paid about £600 for my first full cycle, and although it was worth it, because I experienced excellent results and no side effects, I can't help but feel that £600 was a lot of money for what I wanted to achieve.
Steroid use is largely underground, but the University of Glamorgan has been studying use of the drugs in the South Wales valleys for more than 15 years.
The supply of these drugs are quite easy. In our survey, 95% of the people who were taking the drugs had no problems at all in acquiring them. Whether or not they're acquiring what they think they are is another argument.
Buying steroids over the internet is like playing Russian roulette. Often you just don't know what you're getting. Counterfeit drugs or fakes pose a huge risk to health. We heard they're a big problem in South Wales and decided to investigate ourselves. Right. Just typed the word steroids into the search engine on this computer, and yeah, there are stacks and stacks of sites offering to sell me steroids and human growth hormones and other drugs that are used to counteract the effect of steroids. So what we're going to do is buy some just to see how easy it is and what we get sent. Injecting steroids is a risky business. It's not unusual for users to suffer side effects like this. One hospital in the valleys has reported a growing number of young men needing treatment for abscesses in the muscle like these.
We realised last year we were having a lot, so when we looked, I think the first quarter of the year we had about 15 cases of abscesses from injection. What people do is they generally inject these steroid preparations directly into their muscles, from which they're absorbed into the body. The injection sites commonly become infected, and sometimes you get abscess formation within the muscle, which is a collection of pus. And that then needs to be surgically removed, and those are the patients that we commonly see.
And doctors say taking steroids is playing Russian roulette with your health. When you buy them off the internet, how do you really know what you're injecting into your body?
They expect a sting from the good stuff, and so aftershave is something which is quite capable of doing that. So I understand that some of these have been doctored with aftershave and things of this sort. I mean, if they're going to manufacture these things with a load of rubbish, I think we really do we need to take that very seriously, because it could make somebody really ill. I mean, as you say, I don't know what they put into them, olive oil and things of this sort.
We've discovered it costs the NHS roughly £2,000 to treat each steroid user with a severe muscle abscess.
These are self-inflicted, they're avoidable, whereas, you know, your elderly lady that slipped trying to get her milk off the doorstep or something, you know, that's an unavoidable thing, and so to see some patients sometimes wait because we have to treat other things like muscle abscesses, which are serious in their own right but avoidable, can be frustrating.
Many in the bodybuilding community also feel frustrated. They think a worrying number of youngsters are misusing steroids.
I consider safe, educated, responsible use of steroids to be steroid use. Unfortunately, there does appear to be a growing subset of the younger male population that believes they can take steroids for a quick fix. They're not prepared to put in the education and research and learning necessary to do a safe, responsible cycle of steroids. In short, they are immature and irresponsible, and I would call them abusers of steroids.
Fitness fanatics like Dean and Chris Phillips are insistent that you can use steroids safely, a view that flies in the face of accepted medical opinion.
You do it for a certain amount of weeks, you stop for at least the amount of time which you're doing it, and then if you choose you can do it again, but you know, as long as you do it right and you won't have a problem.
These days, men are under just as much pressure to look good as women are. We've discovered that for the new generation of steroid users, it's all about image. It's not about looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone anymore. It's simply about looking good. Taking steroids can seem very appealing. They can give definition. We've discovered that for the new generation of steroid users, it's all about image. It's not about looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone anymore. It's simply about looking good. Taking steroids can seem very appealing. They can give definition to a man's physique without him spending as many hours training in the gym. But those using the drugs as a shortcut are frowned upon by the bodybuilding community. They feel it's giving their sport a bad name and, perhaps ironically, that it's cheating.
Then you've got a sector also of young lads. They want to look pretty good, take steroids to do so. They also think they're pretty much invincible, pretty much indestructible, and this is where you're going to get problems.
"21-year-old Joe Binley doesn't use steroids. He trains hard 7 days a week, and he's irritated by boys who take shortcuts to look good.
You see them in the gym a few times a week, and then out on a night out, the tight t-shirts on, marching around like they own the place, because they've got a little bit of size behind them, ego that goes with it, and go out and just cause mayhem, I think that. But you know, they're easy to pick out, and you'll see them a few months later and their appearance will have changed. So.
According to a recent BBC survey, young men are now just as concerned about.
I think we're living in a society now where, you know, we have to look good. And so I think a lot of these people, they tend to lose their self-esteem. They can't reach the standards that society is demanding of them. So they look to other ways to do this. And so you get the anorexic woman and the bigorexic man. And so these people are extremes of what we're trying to achieve.
While experts agree that low self-esteem is fairly common amongst steroid users, very few will actually admit it. We spoke to one man, a self-confessed bigorexic, who we'll call John.
The way I see it is that women have got this theory about getting slim and skinny or whatever. Men have got the same thing, but the opposite way around. They want to get big. And a lot of men are not happy with the size or the shape they are. The thing is, women are being stereotyped for such a long time for losing weight. And men, they just don't see men worried about things like that. But they're far from it. Men are worried about the way they look and how big they are. And a lot of men are not happy with the size or the shape they are. The thing is, women are being stereotyped for such a long time for losing weight. And men, they just don't see men worried about things like that. But they're far from it. Men are worried about the way they look and how big they are.
But just as many men dislike thin women, it seems lots of women reject the stereotype of a muscle-bound man.
I like a man who's toned, but not like where they've got the veins popping out.
I don't like big muscled men. They're a bit scary and they can't walk properly. They walk with their arms like that.
I like them to be toned and have like a bit of muscle, but not like really
and
beefy.
Nice arms.
Yeah,
not
nice
good
arms.
Definitely.
No, seriously, I don't really mind as long as it's the...
Beth doesn't care.
No, it's not. No, it's the personality that counts.
Oh, of course it is. But tall, dark, handsome, more like Sufu Weaver. No need, boys.
The pressure on young men to look good is bigger than ever, and they're taking bigger risks too. A study by the University of Glamorgan has found evidence that...
More trouble in terms of growth and bone growth.
21-year-old student Joe Binley spends all his spare time training in the gym. He pushes himself to the limit without using steroids.
It's a pretty structured plan. It's weights 7 times a week, a different body part each day. And during the summer months lead up to summer, incorporate quite a lot of cardio because I play sport through the summer as well.
But Joe knows his best could be even better. He admits he may end up using steroids too.
It's always going to be a consideration. You should question yourself 7 days a week. Where would you be if you were taking things? Because you are aware that other people will take things and are taking things around the environment, so you think, why not? But obviously there's lots of cons to doing that.
Youngsters can face huge pressure to use steroids. John started taking them when he was just 14.
Because I was such a tall lad, I didn't think I was big enough to carry my height. I wanted to get bigger, so I didn't look so skinny. When I started doing it, the feeling I had was phenomenal. The training I had was stronger. I felt better myself. Such a strong feeling inside. It's really hard to explain to people who doesn't take steroids how strong the feeling is and the buzz you get through training with taking steroids.
But like any other drug, there are side effects associated with steroid use. The emotional problems caused by steroid use can also have a serious effect on relationships.
Before I was taking steroids, I was a very happy-go-lucky person, very placid, calm. I didn't lose my temper very quickly. When I started taking steroids, my temper was horrendous. Aggression was phenomenal. I mean, if I got in an argument with somebody, I used to grip my teeth because I was in so much rage, so much aggression inside me. I just wanted to hit the life out of the person whoever upset me. I've had liver, kidney problems. I've had pains in my chest. But in my eyes, it's going to sound hard. It's been worth it because the feeling I get through my training.
John keeps his drug use hidden from those close to him.
It's not like heroin or cocaine. You don't have hits off it. It only happens when you train. It takes a couple of days to get into the system.
The fear is that the secrecy about steroids means young men aren't getting the full facts.
They could start developing breasts, they could have a shrinkage of the testes, and they could be impotent. They are side effects which are not unusual with the use of anabolic steroids. Acne and male pattern balding is also a regular feature. So there are these quite frightening side effects which no one would wish, and I'm sure it's not the intention of any of the people who start out on these drugs to end up with these problems.
But the shocking side effects of steroids are still not enough to put users off.
The side effects are very much down to the individual. Luckily, I'm not predisposed to many side effects at all. I have a little bit of insomnia. Occasionally I get some night sweating, and I do get a little bit of testicular shrinkage. But although that sounds quite serious, it's very reversible, mild, and it's dose dependent. And there are compounds that I can take that will reverse that quite happily and quite easily.
A lot of steroid users take a variety of other drugs, like the breast cancer drug tamoxifen, to counteract side effects. Most inject steroids rather than take them orally.
With taking tablets, the liver and kidney will affect any person taking them. You have to drink amounts of water to flush your body all the time. And over a long period of time, the toxins of the testosterone chemical reaction in your body builds up, and it affects your body all around.
Doctors say no fit person should take steroids, but most of the users we spoke to insist the damage caused to your body is no worse than smoking or drinking.
I tend not to go out that much. I don't drink, I don't smoke. So it's nothing major, you know. There's a lot of people who choose to do hardcore drugs. Some people like to binge drink, and some people like to go to the gym, keep fit, and if they want to, they go down the road of using steroids.
Old school bodybuilders like David Thomas are concerned about the new generation of steroid users. He feels they know no boundaries.
People train at my health club in fantastic condition. They don't drink, they don't smoke, they don't socialise heavy on the weekends, or if they do socialise, be quite careful. But then you've got a group and a sector of individuals that also take steroids. Look, body beautiful, fantastic, to be quite honest with you. They're pretty much well read, but then they think they're pretty much indestructible.
There's been a huge increase in demand for steroids on the black market. Many users are turning to the internet to buy drugs, but can they be sure what they're getting?
Okay, it's a week since we ordered the steroids online, and I've received a package through from Slovakia. So let's have a look, see what we've got inside. Right, I wasn't expecting this. This looks like a video box. And okay, we've got a bag. Doesn't look very professional. We've got glass bottles, some pink tablets, sachets, and some other tablets. But there's absolutely no paperwork that's been sent through with this, so I've no idea what is what relates to what I've ordered, and more importantly, really, I've no idea how to use it safely. You know, I'm not doing anything wrong in terms of the law, but there's something about this whole transaction that just seems dodgy, really. There's no marking on any of this to tell us what it actually is. Oh, actually, Indian aromatherapy oils. That doesn't relate to anything that's on this order list. These sachets are actually out of date. So we have spent nearly £80, and I have no idea what we've bought. So I think the best thing we can do here is bag all this back up and send it off to the lab, see if they can tell us.
The legal minefield surrounding steroids means they've been driven underground, and you can make a lot of money selling them. But you can make even more selling fakes.
A lot of people are not aware when they're using fakes, so they're adding a substance into their body that isn't even what they think it's going to do. It will not do what it says on the label, basically.
So what, you're talking about counterfeit steroids, yes, then? Ogur Dash provides help and support to drug users in the Bridgend area. It provides a needle exchange and prides itself on being a non-judgmental organisation that'll help anyone. Most people would assume that steroid use is not part of this whole setup, is that right?
No, it can be anything up to 50% of the people that we see here would be using steroids of some description.
And staff here are extremely worried about the quality of steroids being bought over the internet.
Some of the steroids that are around are actually only for animals. So, you know, all sorts of things can happen if you give an animal steroid to a human being. You're completely in the dark. You're putting something into your body, you've got absolutely no idea what the effect is going to be.
The current situation means there's no regulation of steroid use. The internet is often the only source of information accessible for the curious youngster. We've spoken to one man who acts as an expert on 2 bodybuilding websites. Dean says he gives out advice and information to anyone who asks for it.
I tend to hang around the steroid forums because that's where I feel I can do the most good. I can offer the most sensible advice. I have many years of practical experience with steroids that no GP has. Furthermore, I'm a medical student myself. I do feel that I am qualified, probably more than most GPs, to answer questions only relating to steroids and some other aspects of maybe multivitamins and supplementation.
Information on the internet can be hit and miss, but it's currently about the only place users can go to find out more about steroids.
I wouldn't do something which I didn't know what I was doing. You know, there's bodybuilding forums like Biohazard. It's a bodybuilding forum in general, which you can go onto the forum and ask people, about training, dieting, and bodybuilding in general. And if you choose to go down the road of talking about steroids, then you can get that help if you wanted, because there's pros who go on there, bodybuilders who compete amateur and pro level.
My advice to anyone under the age of 21, my strong advice would be do not consider steroids. You are not skeletally, sexually or mentally mature enough to consider taking, powerful steroid hormones. Having said that, if someone comes to me and says, I've already bought the steroids, I'm going to do it anyway, help me to do this safely, again, I'll reiterate my advice not to do it, but I'm always of the belief that education is better than ignorance, and I will try and help someone if that's the only path they're going to go down.
Well, we sent the steroids that we bought over the internet off to the lab to be tested, and I've now got the results back. So I've come back to the University of Glamorgan to show them to Professor Bruce Davis.
It's good news and bad news, I suppose. The first thing is that all of these ampoules contain testosterone, which is good. But the bad news is that 2 of them were presented in sachets with no names on them. Most of the pharmaceutical companies, when they send these drugs out for clinical use, would clearly mark the amount of drug on the outside of the container, and they would clearly mark their own company. So it would seem to me that 2 sachets, by definition, have been produced in an underground laboratory. Because they've been produced in an underground lab, they probably are not sterile. So the likelihood of putting a microbe into your muscle, which would produce a very serious bacterial infection, is quite high.
And so you would be concerned if someone had spent the £80 that we've spent and then went about injecting themselves with what we bought?
Very much so. On 2 of them, very concerned. The 2 in the unmarked sachets is unequivocally, cause for concern.
Well, of course, we wanted to speak to the government about what they're doing about the problem, and the Home Office wouldn't give us an interview, but they have issued us a statement. It says the government considers that the current measures and restrictions on availability of anabolic steroids are proportionate to the scale of the problem. However, together with the Advisory Council on the Misuse of Drugs, the expert independent body that advises the government on drug matters, we continue to keep these matters under review.
In response to that statement, Sian James, MP for Swansea East, has tabled questions to the Home Office asking what's being done to tackle the use and sale of anabolic steroids on the internet. She's also asking what's being done to warn youngsters of the dangers, but some feel the government's giving mixed messages.
Steroids are so safe that they shouldn't be illegal, but then apparently the government's saying they're not safe enough that they should be freely available to buy. So it would be nice if they could make up their mind one way or the other. Personally, I feel that they should be made fully legal and they should be available to buy from pharmacies.
The experts say we should perhaps take a more realistic approach too.
We must be careful that the drug doesn't go underground. And the only way to do that is to open it out a little bit and get these people should be able to access advice from experts. People who know the side effects, who can talk to them about the side effects, and in many instances prevent the side effects. And then perhaps we will get more response from these people.
And while image plays such an important role for youngsters, it's estimated steroid use is set to rise even further.